Hi, my name is Dionne Hoskins-Brown, and I'm going to be talking with you today about some of the strategies that we use when we work from home. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, this idea of teleworking, working from home, or telecommuting, and we thought it might be helpful to just share some of those strategies and talk about some of the obstacles you may be facing as you're trying to work from home in many different capacities. I'm going to be trying to speak mainly from the perspective of an instructor or a teacher, but anyone who picks this up will be able to pull ideas on how to move their professional work home. So teleworking, working remotely, it's really all about taking your professional performance from the office, home, and getting that work done with the same quality that you would have in your work environment. But it's important that being at home means that you may have a tendency to overwork and not end your workday. That home creep may move its way into work time, that you may underwork because you may underestimate your time, or just lose the joy of even doing the work because you're tired of being at home and you haven't found ways to invigorate that work period while you're in your home environment. So working from home can look like this, and I love this screen capture. This is Principal Erica Foster with her teachers and her little people from Formy. And so telework is looking like this for a lot of people. It's looking like this for a lot of people, working and having little people or older people or spouses or pets move around you in casual spaces. It's looking a lot like this. This is me and all of my colleagues from the Marine Sciences program at Savannah State University, just kind of getting together. This was after the first week of self-quarantine because we just wanted to lay eyes on each other and laugh a little bit. So the first part of working from home is setting up your area, setting up that thing that's going to be your workspace. It also means knowing your work needs and meeting them. So the start of setting up your workspace and setting up what your work goals are going to be is going to be associated with what are your occupational requirements? Like, do you have a telework agreement? Is there a telework policy? Or do you simply have your supervisor's permission and some instructions and some expectations of what your supervisor or your team is looking for from you? What's your atmosphere need to be like in your work environment? What tools do you need? What distractions really get your attention and pull you off task? And what are your efficiencies or inefficiencies? And so we'll kind of go through these topics. Occupational requirements, they are just that. What is it that your job is saying, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to make sure happens while you're working at home so that we know that you're being productive and we're helping you be productive. So your unit or your supervisor may have specific requirements. They may require that you have consistent internet availability or a VPN, a virtual private network. They may have specific instructions for how you work remotely. That certainly is the case for me. My supervisors have a specific list of what they expect me to be doing and how they expect me to be working. It includes video conferencing. It includes being on duty certain hours of the day. It also has safety requirements, making sure that I don't have cables lying around, that there's a fire extinguisher, that the environment is set up in a safe way, because if you're teleworking, then you have permission to work from home. And if you're working from home, that means all of the issues related to workers' comp and safe work environments is related to your home environment. Some workplaces more than others emphasize that, but it's just something to consider, that your home is being turned into a real workplace. So also think about the technical ability. Does someone need to be able to send you a document for you to sign or authorize, and do you need to be able to send it back? So once you start considering what your occupational requirements are, Like for me, it includes a lot of these things, and providing instruction from home. It helps us consider what kind of assistance and resources you may need to be able to meet these occupational requirements. And it often means asking for resources or asking for that help. And so I certainly invite you to do that. And those needs are going to be different for different people. And so do communicate to your team and your supervisor, this is what I need in order to be productive in this kind of environment. The other thing to consider is, what is the atmosphere that you need to manifest your genius? When you are like humming on all 4 cylinders and you're really getting terrific work done, what does that look like? When are you brilliant? Is it early in the morning? Is it late in the evening? Is it middle of the day? Is it in a brightly lit room like the one I'm in right now? Is it a perfectly quiet space, or do you need background noise? Do you need to be caffeinated? Do you need to be hydrated? Do all that you can to create the conditions under which you work your best. So this could also mean creating a work day or a work period in your home that's different from what would be your typical duty hours when you're in your office or in your classroom. Now that's difficult at this time because there's a set period of time for some of the activities that need to be done to get done. And so there's not a lot of flexibility in that part of the day, but there are other tasks that may be able to migrate at parts of the day that are more productive for you and times that are more productive for different reasons for different people. So I know folks that work from 6 to 8 a.m. They take a break around 8 a.m. to get their household kind of organized. There are some folks who have migrated some of their work tasks to Sunday morning or late at night. And these aren't recommendations unless they work for you. They're merely observations of things that I've done and I've seen people do that help them get their work tasks completed when there are distractions in the home. And just remember that your workday may be different from week to week, and it may be different from project to project, depending on what you're working on, what you're trying to accomplish, and what may be happening in your home at that time. So I used to have a home office, but things change, and I don't have a home office anymore. So my workspace is not that home office where you can go in and close your door. And for some people, that may also be true. Your workspace could be a room or it could be a series of spaces. So because I don't have one set office, I often move during the day, depending on what the task is that I'm working on or the kind of environment I need, or if I just get antsy and need to move. So some people have a work office, like you see in this gentleman. Some people are working in their living room. Some people are, retrofitting their porches or their decks or their patios. There are lots of opportunities. This is not my patio, but I read and I check email on my porch. I grab my coffee, and that's one of my workspaces. I also have a nook in my attic. This is not my attic, but in that nook, I read, I write, I take video conferences, because in that little nook, there's no one moving around, there's no one walking behind me, there's no dog barking, or in my case, a bunny rabbit hopping by. In my attic, there's a certain amount of stillness and quiet that I can get some tasks done. But I just really liked this fold-down desk. I've always wanted one. There's also a dedicated space in my dining room where I take video conferences because it's a good space for that. And so you don't have to commit to have one space. If you prefer one space, that's cool. But try to be creative and choose spaces that work for you for what you need at different times of the day or for different types of work. So now tools. What kind of tools do we need in order to do our work? Inevitably, it's going to involve a computer of some kind, but is that a PC for some people, or is that a laptop for another? Is that a Mac? Is that a tablet? What does that look like? Do you need bright light? Do you need a window? Are you working on your phone as well as on your computer, and do you need to have a charger, a webcam, a printer, or are you doing everything electronically and you don't need one? Just brainstorming, what are the things that you need to make your work productive can be really, really helpful. And sometimes you figure that out by just working. And as you work and you see what you need as you're working. It'll help you identify your needs. Now, I have a kit. This is a jar that used to hold some really, really delicious Kalamata olives, and it is now my porch kit. My minimum kit for wherever I'm working is going to be a pair of reading glasses, a yellow highlighter, a blue pen, a mechanical pencil, some earplugs, and in this case, because it's my porch kit, it has the lighter for my citronella candle because I live in Savannah and the mosquitoes are real. But this kit is located in a couple of places in my home. So as soon as I sit down to start my work, all my tools are there for the most part. I just show up with my papers or my laptop. Your kit may have a number of other different things in it. It may have some snacks or whatever it takes for you to be comfortable in your place. But honor your process and honor what you need to telework by putting together the resources that you need. And if you can do so, duplicate it so you're not having to walk around looking for things, or you're not worrying about someone borrowing your highlighter. You have everything that you need in place. Now, the number one tool for me, I have to identify as the one that makes any telework environment, whether it used to be able to be a coffee shop, but anywhere in my home, I've got to have earplugs. And so Max earplugs are my earplugs of choice. I have to give an honorable mention to this charging stand and not getting any money from eBay for pubbing this thing, but it's pretty great because it's a contact charger that allows me to receive information and still have my phone upright. It was cheap and it's really helpful. So, as you begin to work, as I said, you'll start identifying those tools that are absolutely essential for you to be productive. Because I really need quiet, I really have to have earplugs before I have any of these different things. But some people need background noise, so a mini speaker or some headphones may be one of their essential tools. So now let's talk about working across modalities. Very few of us sit in one place and do the same thing for all 8 hours of our workday. If we did, it would be terribly unhealthy, very uncomfortable, and incredibly boring. That should be if you're burning out. But if you're burning out, keep working and switch modes. And if that doesn't work, take a break. So let's look at what some of these modes are. A lot of us are working in our chair, at our desk, on the floor, on a computer. It's necessitated by the kind of work that we do in the environment that we live in. If you've been doing this for a while, switch your locations, switch your modes. So here are some examples. I love to dictate. Dictate simple things like the content of an email that you need to send. You can edit it later in your browser or in your email application. Just get those ideas out, especially if you're thinking about an email that you haven't answered that you know you need to answer. Dictate some notes from something that you're reading or doing. Dictate a recommendation letter. If using that particular mode is not attractive for you at that particular time, or maybe it's not quiet enough for you to do that, think about cleansing your mental palate by reading something, reading an article, reading a book, reading some resource that supports the work that you're doing. It's okay to change modes. Just make sure that the mode is supporting your productivity, because then you're teleworking. If it's not a resource or it's not a mode that's supporting your work, then you're actually taking a break. And we'll talk about the need for those a little bit later. Write a thank you note or a congratulatory note. Many of us are surrounded by really talented people, talented colleagues, and talented students that would love to hear from us, for us to just say, hey, that was a great job that you did. I'm really, really happy for you, or congratulations, or hey, I was just thinking about you. You do great things. I wanted to drop you a note. Another thing is to create a priority list. If you're having a little bit of brain fog that day and you are trying to get back on track, maybe you've gotten distracted, take a moment to write a list of, these are the things that I really, really wanted to get done, or these are my priorities for the week, and kind of take stock of what you've been working on. So when you get back on the computer, you have a little more focus, and you're not just working on each email as it has come in order, or each task as it presents itself on your computer. You're actually using a strategized plan that maybe you worked on a piece of paper. One thing that I like to encourage my students to do who are still getting used to teleworking is that professional conversations count as part of your work. If you've been working on a computer, if you've been reading a document, if you've been taking notes and you're still kind of burnt out and you need to change how you're working, I encourage them, call another graduate student and talk with them about what they're doing. Talk about a statistical technique that you don't quite understand. Share the results of a paper, or just check in on where you are in your process, or maybe a committee that you've been working on, or maybe another teacher who has a good technique. Take the opportunity to have a professional conversation, call a colleague, invite them to a short brainstorming session and mental break. It's just a good idea to kind of identify what you're going to talk about and maybe give yourself a limit that this is going to be a short conversation, or maybe this is going to be an extended telephone meeting. And that way you can put some limits and know that you're not going to migrate into a social call. The other thing that we can do is we can call and listen to someone whom we know may be struggling. It's not, it's not for everyone to work from home. And sometimes if you know that there's someone who's struggling with that, or maybe has a need of a technique that you have figured out for yourself, just a short 5-minute call to say, hey, I was thinking about you. I learned this new thing. I found this new website. Just wanted to share it with you. It gives you a break, and it provides an outlet for someone else. And again, just listen. You may hear something really wonderful from them that they wanted to share that you wouldn't have gotten had you not picked up the phone. Another mode that we can be using are our ears. We can be listening. We can listen to audiobooks or audio documents. This just happens to be one of my favorites. I like Scribd, and the reason I like it is because it has so many different resources, not just books and not just magazines, but we can also use a tool I'll talk about a little bit later where you can convert your own documents to audio files that will allow you to listen to them. So let's talk about breaks, distractions, and inefficiencies. Enjoy your breaks. Beware of if they may take a turn. Use them to manage your fatigue and choose the ones that rejuvenate your mind. Note those that creep from being a 5-minute break to a 30-minute distraction, and then just build upon that, work on it, understand which breaks are good strategies for you and which ones are kind of time sinks. If you're homeschooling, serving as a caregiver for someone, or cooking incessantly like I am right now, some of your breaks are already predetermined. But you can think about what your breaks are going to be during your day as you plan your day during your work week. If you have difficulty tracking your time, as I did early on, you can easily keep a log, or you can come up with more creative ways to develop your own accountability. One accountability tool is an IOU jar, where you can just put in that jar on a slip of paper if you found yourself kind of migrating for 15 minutes. Oh, I owe 15 minutes to my workday, and just put that in your jar. You could also extend your workday, or you could start your day later. The only caveat I would offer about the IOU jar is it's really, really hard to work off 2-hour IOUs, and it can really be frustrating to see that jar full of time that you think that you need to put back into your work efforts. And so I would use small increments that you could get some satisfaction out of pulling those IOUs out and discarding them. Do try to be compassionate with yourself, be kind to yourself, and avoid creating anxiety over what you have and haven't done. Instead, find ways to confirm your accountability and affirm your efforts, not beat yourself up for what you didn't do. You will get better with time, even if you're already good at working from home. You will learn to know your distractions and manage them. For many people, the top distractions are unengaged family members that are not working like you are. They're not studying. They're not working from home. Pets that want some attention. This is a really amusing time to be on video conferences and see the pets that come into frame while people are working from home. But email can be a distraction too. So can housework and social media and text and group chat, that you just look at one email or you just try to complete one task or answer one text, and next thing you know, it's an hour later and you haven't gotten anything accomplished. So make sure that you start to identify the distractions that take away from your time and figure out better ways to manage them, like checking your email at certain times of the day, turning off notifications for a group chat, or turning off social media. Efficiencies. You will be able to figure out what works for you and be able to optimize it as you go along. Assess yourself pretty frequently until you get the hang of it. Ask yourself, did I take any more breaks than I would have at work? Are my tasks getting done with the appropriate quality? Observe your perception of time. When I was working on this presentation, I thought I worked on it for an hour and a half on that particular day when I was editing. And I said, let me just check the properties of this file and see how long I worked. Well, I had worked for an hour. So I felt like I had worked for an hour and a half, but I had actually worked for an hour. You know, that's not a really good balance of time. That's why I checked myself. Well, sometimes we do that on different tasks. And so observe your perception of time and ground truth it periodically to make sure that you're working when you think you're working and that you're breaking when you think you're breaking. Expect uncontrollable interruptions. Someone is going to fall and have a boo-boo. Some pet is going to make a mess on the floor. Something is going to break or fall, or something's going to happen, and you're just going to have to adjust for it and manage it. Be prepared for it and be flexible within your day. I want to share two of my favorite tools that help with my work, whether I'm working at home or in the office, but they particularly help when I'm at home. And one of them is Natural Reader's software. It's a software and website. There's a free version. There are also paid versions that allow you to convert websites, documents, PDFs from documents to audio files, to MP3s or WAV files, which means that I'm able to take a document, run it through Natural Reader software, make an audio file, and I can listen to it. It's really, really helpful when I want to take a break from sitting at the computer, but I still need to process a lot of information. So I can create a file, put it on my phone, maybe go for a short walk or get on the treadmill or just move around a little bit. The other is Grammarly. I told you that I really, really value dictation, but sometimes dictation isn't always as accurate as I would like it to be, or maybe the way I'm speaking is not correct. So Grammarly is a really good tool. It's a free add-on to Chrome or Microsoft Office that will check your spelling and grammar, and it does a little bit better than the built-in spell checker and makes you look real smart, especially on emails where we often make mistakes. My all-time favorite hack that I'm going to spend the last few minutes talking about is OneNote. OneNote is an application that comes with our Office package, with our Savannah Chatham email and the other things that we use like OneDrive. And it's a note-taking software that you can use on Android, iPhone, or on your tablet or your PC or Mac. And you can create folders under different topics. And then under each section, there's a page, and under each page, you can put in information. And what I really like about it is that it's fully transportable. So I use it on my phone as well as my computer. But the thing about using it on my phone is that I can dictate using the keyboard on my phone into OneNote. And then when I'm ready to look at it later on, it's there on my PC when I log in. It's really, really awesome. A lot of us dictate into our phones for text messages and emails. And so it's just an extension of that same behavior, but put into a format that allows us to benefit at work. And so you just use your microphone that's on your keypad, and because we're using Grammarly, we don't necessarily have to be perfect. We just get the idea down into our OneNote page. There are lots of resources and YouTube videos on how to use OneNote effectively. Now, the other thing I like about it, and I mentioned the use of dictation to make letters, I really think that a good recommendation letter is important. And I think the key for me in writing strong recommendation letters for my colleagues, for my students, and for people I supervise is really using my own words and my own emotions to talk about what I think they bring to whatever process I'm writing a letter for. And so dictation is absolutely perfect for that. So their efficiencies have improved in the practice of dictation. Some of you may know the Carol Burnett skit with Mr. Tutball and Mrs. Wiggins and him trying to dictate letters to her, which I think is really amusing, but also tells how old I am. With practice, OneNote can be very, very accurate in capturing your thoughts. And again, when you couple it with Grammarly and do some spell checking on it, it allows you to be really, really efficient using your voice and not necessarily typing all the time. So I just want to close by saying that working from home is about understanding how you work in the same way that we try to understand how our different learners learn. It's about understanding what the goals are, what you're trying to get out of your work sessions at home, and that's going to change day by day, week by week. And it's also about looking at yourself as a learner in a kind way. Be kind to yourself as you're figuring out how to navigate doing everything from home. We do not need to be our own mean boss. I hope that these strategies will be helpful for those who are trying to be most productive and most effective in what they're doing while they're working in a home environment. Again, my name is Dionne Hoskins-Brown, and thank you.